Interesting makeup of the two teams that are involved in the tag title match. You got the challengers, best friends.
How's our postures? Do we look confident?
It's been well documented that there is some sort of unique relationship between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page.
I feel that. Out of anyone, I can relate to you the most. So call that what you will.
Oh,
but...
shut up. That's not true.
No, come on, we're like brothers, you know? A brotherhood.
Omega and Page, it's like they're two different animals. One guy's drinking just straight JD, the other guy's drinking milk.
It's disgusting. We got a half-drunk guy, and the other guy is gonna have...
Full of milk?
How many drinking buddies you have? I can
Fine.
count the amount of drinking buddies you have on one hand.
These guys can't even drink the same drink, and they call themselves champions?
And since I'm the only one, I might just be your best friend.
I was there for the genesis of Best Friends when Chuck Taylor and Trent first met.
See this?
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, and I'm joined by my three wonderful co-hosts, Big Match AJ, and we got Phil and Kira, as always, on Wednesday nights. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Working on a second draft of a movie. A lot of writing lately for me.
Great. I'm so excited for it. I'm sorry, that sounded sarcastic, but I'm serious.
I'm doing great.
That's good. I mean, I kind of share the same sentiment as Kira because this was a much more exciting episode than Dynamite. Last week, I feel like we really bounced back. This was a really good go-home show, as we talk about every time. Before, I'm Kira, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term go-home show, but anytime there's a pay-per-view or a big event coming up, the show right before that is called the go-home show, where they're supposed to try and wrap everything up, make it feel more exciting. It's supposed to us at least, if we feel like it should be a little bit more of a special episode of Dynamite. And in most cases, we kind of don't get that. Like, I'm sure you don't even have that feeling of the show before the pay-per-view being more special, but that's kind of what we've been hoping for, and we finally got it.
Yeah, definitely. This was a great show. A great go-home show. And like you said, usually AEW doesn't deliver on this, so it was interesting that they really did a lot of work to hype it up.
Yeah, it felt like when they advertised this show last week, I wasn't excited for it. But then when I saw the show play out, it was a very entertaining 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was just a really exciting episode. I think they did a good job at getting us excited for the next 2 weeks of Dynamite with the Fyter Fest shows that they have planned, and that's good. Like I can relate to Phil a lot in saying that I wasn't too excited for this week's episode because of how stale kind of last week's episode was, but they bounced back really, really well. So I was quite surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And we started this show off in a way I wasn't expecting. We just got right to a Wardlow versus Luchasaurus match. They jumped right into the Lumberjack match, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I actually really like this match. It's a COVID nightmare, but aside from that, which we are willing to ignore, it was a great match. They did a lot. Luchasaurus usually looks like slow a lot of the times, and I didn't get that feeling here. So sometimes he did, but like the moves were still cool. Like he did a standing moonsault, he did a shooting star press off the little stage. There was a lot of cool moments in this match, and the most important thing was I really wasn't sure who was going to win, because I figure if you have Luchasaurus win, you can still have the Wardlow MJF match, and if you had Wardlow win, you could still have that match too. So I was really enjoying this one.
Yeah, me too. I know exactly what you feel. I was like, I looked at Phil. I was like, I actually don't know who's gonna win. I don't even know who I want to win, but I think I really kind of wanted Luchasaurus to win just because, like, Wardlow, is that his name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You got it.
All right. Wardlow is just associated with MJF, so that's why I just wanted Luchasaurus to win. But I kind of knew he wouldn't. But it was still exciting because of that reason.
I didn't know who was going to win this match. It would have made sense either way, and that was the key that made this Dynamite really entertaining. There were a lot of matches where I really didn't know who was going to win.
Yeah.
So that always makes it an entertaining show. I, like AJ, had two thoughts here. One, I think Marco did a dive on everybody, and I said out loud, COVID-19. Like, everybody's doing spots onto each other. It was awful for like everything outside of like the wrestling bubble. But it was, dude, when I remembered that this match was going to be a thing, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a slow, boring shit fest. I don't care about this match. Like,
Yeah.
I care about who gets the win, but the match itself, who cares? And then they entertained me.
Yeah, they definitely delivered, and it's definitely a weird situation seeing that many people all clustered into one area, all trying to catch someone. It was funny, there was one point, I don't remember exactly who was thrown into the group at this point, but Jim Ross was like, catch him. I felt like he had a flashback to Phoenix doing the dive where no one caught him. So he just desperately wanted whoever it was to get caught. But yeah, this was fun. Marco got tossed into a giant group of people. We got to see Luchasaurus do a strange shooting star press off of it was cool, but it was just like hard for him to set it up or something. Like
was it because
he hesitated, right?
Yeah, was it because that he did the motion, stopped, and then did the whole thing? Like you don't really see that in wrestling, that like moment of like,
guy.
oh shit,
Give him some slack.
And I don't blame him for wanting to be safe, but it just definitely came off as a little bit like, oh man, so that was it. It was still a cool spot, a really cool moment, but just one of those things where maybe, even though it's cool that he can do it and that he's that size, maybe he shouldn't, because it could still potentially, like if he has to take that extra time, and maybe it's more, a little bit more dangerous. You know what I mean? It's not like he got a ton of height. It's not like it wasn't that crazy, because you see much crazier things from the smaller guys. So him doing it, it's just because he's a big guy doing it, and I just don't see the point, I guess. He can do other really cool stuff. He doesn't have to throw himself into a group of people.
Kira, would you like to comment on the best friends attire tonight?
I've always thought they've been annoying, but like I kind of, I guess, secretly like them. I guess since as soon as I saw them in like the lumberjack uniform, first I didn't even know who they were. I was just like, oh look, some people are actually dressed as lumberjacks. Like I thought that's what this would be.
Yes.
And then it was the best friends.
To somebody who doesn't know what a lumberjack match is, like you truly don't understand how much somebody doesn't know.
Are they just gonna dress up as lumberjacks and wrestle?
Dude,
or
and then there are people ringside who fit the stereotype. So you're like, why isn't everybody dressed like this?
So I was just like, oh my god, it's the best friends. Like, and I've grown a little bit more respect.
Like I said, with this and the promo later in the show, this week did so much more for the best friends for Kira than any match during the COVID pandemic ever did for them.
Yeah, I think they really did shine, and that was definitely a funny moment for me too. Like it's just cool to see the best friends. They'll play into like anything, so them playing into something like this makes so much sense. But it does get over really well. And they just kind of, like you said, they continued that throughout the night, just with hype videos for that match, and then they did another hype video. That's actually what followed this. We had a hype video for Brian Cage, being narrated by Taz. Taz just hypes up Cage's moves. They did a bunch of these hype videos, so I don't think we have to spend too much time on this one, because this one really wasn't one that stood out. It was just Taz doing his thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. That it was short, sweet, to the point. Taz did his thing. Cage didn't say barely anything, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. We get commentary running down the show. At this point, this is when Britt Baker starts passing notes to Tony Schiavone once again. This week she has security to protect her from Big Swole. So it's cool that they continue to play into this Britt Baker story. I really like it. I like the Britt story. It doesn't take up a ton of time, but it does throughout the whole show get enough time to cover everything every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's funny how she also had the
glass box.
Yeah, around her.
Like she was the Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I just like everything that they're doing with Britt, so that's nice. And it's nice to have a couple of things going on for the women, because after this segment, we get the pre-match for Hikaru Shida. She faced Red Velvet, but in the pre-match, she gets into a confrontation with Penelope Ford. Penelope slaps her in the face before running off. So Hikaru then immediately dominates Red Velvet in 5 seconds and then beats up Penelope Ford, which I think this is such a cool way to do this. Like, way to make Hikaru look like a total badass. You're like, all right, I've got business to take care of. I'm going to go take care of that. Boom. I'm going to now come and try and kick your ass. So that was cool.
I know Kira hated it, but I fucking loved it.
No,
she came in, she did the Falcon Arrow, she did the deal, and she fucking beat her ass. It was so good.
Or Red Velvet.
I mean, I didn't like, okay, so I was telling AJ that I hated it because, like, I wish she could just been a little bit more strong-minded and just, like, not let it bother her, and, like, but at the same time, I guess it does actually show it didn't really bother her since she just, like, still won her match in, like, 5 seconds. But then I'm like, I was just a little confused on why they were fighting, but I guess it was cool how she just, like, immediately, like, went from, like, pin down, let me beat you up now. Like, it wasn't even, like, a thing. But I felt bad for, like, Red Velvet, you know? That's what I...
Yeah, Red Velvet got the raw end of the deal.
And the reason why it made me more upset, though, was because there wasn't another women's fight, and that was only, like, 5 seconds. That was the only thing.
That's fair. That is perfectly fair.
This was my takeaway from this match. We had the pre-match little scuffle between Penelope and Hikaru, and they haven't really built that one up, aside from Penelope getting random wins at seemingly random times. There's no really storyline behind it, so they had to throw together a little storyline before they face off next week. So Hikaru goes into the ring, and Kira points out that the other girl doesn't get an entrance, and that's totally fine. That happens. But because we watched Dark 2 weeks ago, she knew exactly who Red Velvet was. Oh, that's Red Velvet. And me, who's seen the same episode of Dark, has no idea who this woman is. She gets no graphic, no nothing. They spend no time on this woman.
Yeah, they didn't even said.
That's not even the first time they did it. When John Cruz fought later in the night,
same with John Cruz.
Nobody cared.
No title card.
Yeah,
they also called him Joe for a little bit.
The problem with that is they're really devaluing these characters who they like. Granted, they are just jobbers. They're just there to put someone over. They've done a good job at still establishing them as important potential characters down the line. Like, there are people who have done the job for AEW that I could still see coming in at some point down the line, and I would remember them. Like, there's a couple females that I could think of, and just so it's just like, now that we're getting into this laziness of it, it's unfortunate because it is hard to remember who these people are. Now, I will remember Red Velvet because she lost so quickly to Hikaru Shida, and who knows, maybe she'll get some type of redemption angle down the line. I don't anticipate it because she's very new, and who knows, but they do need to do something with more women, so that's where I 100% side with Kira in the fact that they didn't really do anything else for the women tonight, and granted, pushing Penelope and Shida is important because you have to go somewhere with that. The fact that there's really nothing else going on is what bothers me, is there's nothing else going on for the women. I almost anticipate now Hikaru versus Penelope is going to get some type of cheap finish so they can continue that storyline because there's really nowhere else to go.
We were saying back before the COVID stuff, because the women's division was full of international stars, and we don't have that anymore. We literally have a group of 5 to 6 women who are trading wins, and there's definitely a hierarchy between
their top five is filled with 2 women who are injured.
2 women who won't even compete for the next month at least.
Yeah.
So it's
Chris Statlander and Britt Baker.
And Britt Baker.
Oh yeah, because Britt has the knee injury.
Yep, and Statlander has an even worse knee injury.
Really?
She tore her ACL, which is even worse somehow than a broken leg.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just like the women's division needs more, and I understand that it's hard to put that all together really quickly, but this is why they should be doing more. And just the Britt Baker and Swole thing only does so much because yes, you are building it up, and it will be good when you are able to deliver on it. You can't right now, so we still technically only have 2 people or 3 people.
He needs maybe like if I don't know if Reba's just there, but if Reba is actually a wrestler, wouldn't that be? I just thought of it now. Like, wouldn't it be so interesting if like Swole fought Reba or something. I don't even know. That's not even her real name. But that's what Britt calls her.
Rebel.
Reba.
Oh, Rebel. No. That I wouldn't want to see that.
No, it would be weird. It would be like weird.
At
but
this
it would
point,
be,
it's
like,
whatever.
something
Some
like-
because some of
That is-
the
I mean,
if they can't get Britt in there, they need to build up another women's character.
Yeah.
Because like
she's
the
not
two
wrong.
women-
Even as like a placeholder match, I'm not saying I would necessarily want to see a Rebel match
Yeah,
because
but
I
it's
don't
been
know.
built up.
But it's
Yeah.
it's a placeholder to do something for Swole, get a win for Swole, build heat for Britt. Like it would have been nice to do anything like that because at this point, like I said, we just haven't done much for the women, and we need to because it's so amazing to me that we can look back to just a couple months ago when we were trying to say this was the best women's division in wrestling,
And
and
it's not.
it's so far from it now. So
You know what's funny is last week I was singing the praises of the Anna J. Abaddon.
I would have loved to seen Abaddon this week, man.
And you don't see any of them. Even Anna J. She had more of a storyline. She went with the Dark Order.
Yeah.
Didn't see anything of that. And you
Nothing
have
at all.
Fighter. You have Fighter Fest coming up in the next 2 weeks. You're probably not going to see either of those characters for those 2 weeks. That makes 3 weeks of them not even being on TV. That excellent segment that I praise so much, you
will
elevated.
now be forgotten for the most part, unless like I
Exactly.
could see a video for either one of them. Honestly, like you could do some type of. That's where they're fortunate. They've done a good job with their hype videos. That during either of those shows, they could do Anna J with the Dark Order in a hype video, or even just a video explaining more about Abaddon that could be interesting. So I'm not saying they can't do anything for the next 3 weeks, but if they don't do anything like that, then what a waste of a good segment. You're right, because they essentially made 2 new characters that they could begin to flesh out, and if you don't do any of that over the next month, why even do it?
Yeah. Hopefully next week then.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But something that we actually went from critiquing to kind of singing the praises over this week was the press conference. The last few press conferences they've done have not been done very well at all. I don't know if it's just because they tried to combine them with the StarCast thing and it wasn't just an overall good production. But this was really, really well done. It seemed very professionally done. And it was just somewhat entertaining. It wasn't the best, but if they built on something like this, it could be really fun.
Remember?
I totally I totally agree. It looked like an MMA or boxing press conference. Like it had the right look to it, and they did it well. And I feel like if they expand on this in the future and keep doing things like this, that'll be a huge benefit. And I hope they get the feedback that people like this, and I hope people did like this, because I definitely don't want them going back to the hokey, not really a press conference, or weird contract signings that don't really make much sense sometimes. And I really like just having this press conference look professional and have this really professional feeling about it. And then the way they presented it too, with Jake Hager coming out later in it, was really well done. And the questions they asked, where Arn Anderson got to talk about what he meant by the timing isn't right, that he was challenging Cody. Like, Phil was confused about that last week. Like, what did he mean?
That's true. That's true.
Is he a bitch? And he's like, no, I was trying to get him angry. I was trying to rile him up. And so I like that. I think they explained a lot. They did a lot. This worked on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I like how you guys are saying that it looked real, because I mean, I don't think I've ever seen when they've done a press conference before, but I remember when it came on, I immediately said to Phil, like, wow, this looks pretty cool. Like, this is like a press conference. Like, it just reminded me of like when you see like the basketball players after a game getting interviewed and they're like at a press conference. And so I guess they did a good job, if you guys think that.
I thought it was real cool the way they did this press conference. They kind of ripped off the whole MMA thing a little bit.
They did.
Hey, you from PWI, what do you think about this match? Oh, blah, blah, blah.
That's like
Arn Anderson. But
You
then
should steal good stuff, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Cody spent a lot of the segment talking about how he's the big bat. He's the good guy. Oh, it's honor and prestige. This title doesn't even look the way it's supposed to, but it's still beautiful.
Hopeful.
Still beautiful. And then Jake Hager comes out. I really appreciated the fact that Jake Hager didn't speak.
And he held his girl.
And he
I'm sorry,
it wasn't
what's her
even
name?
nobody
Mrs. Hager.
So he comes out, and it's not even done in like a hokey bad way where it's obvious that he can't speak for himself. He came out and he was like, "Let's just do it. Let's do the photo. Let's do it."
It was great because Cody was awkward too and throwing up the fist. Like you could tell he wanted to do the MMA thing, but was a little uncomfortable doing the MMA thing because it could fuck up the whole shoot if he looks goofy. Like I wish he would have though. I wish they would have set the precedent for even that. Like. It would be silly.
And then they did the goofy MMA thing because Hager did the whole thing with the fist in the face, and that happens 8 million times during the UFC where one opponent wants to make a name for himself, so he gets all cocky in the pre-fight thing, and he puts his fist up to his opponent, and then the way I feel like it's going to be booked, just like it usually happens in the MMA, the person who puts the fist out usually gets beaten. And that's probably what's going to happen in this.
They did a good job at building more anticipation for that match. I still don't think Hager's going to win, but it adds a little bit more to it. It adds a little bit more like something personal to it. We had Hager's wife throw water in Cody's face and stuff like that. Like it was all very it was cliche but fun. I liked it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's ridiculous how Dustin got so mad. Meanwhile, he like sexually assaulted her and no one said anything about that when he made out with her. Like, where was Cody when that happened? Like, he's like nobody is there for me during my fights. Well, like, you're not there for anybody during their fights. He wasn't at his wife's fight when she was at Dark the other week. He wasn't there when, or like defended her when like a snake was crawling all over her body. Like
he was in the shower.
No, man.
Who did Dustin sexually assault?
Yeah, and then Dustin's mad because he got water on his brother's face. Oh,
that is true.
Did it hurt? Like, no, it's
that
water.
Is true that
Cody didn't care.
It is true that
he was like, fuck it, I don't really fuck it.
How could you throw water?
It was true that Dustin forcefully kissing another woman.
I just like.
Who did he do that to?
I lost respect for him, and
Jake Hager's wife.
Oh, he kissed Jake Hager's wife. That's crazy.
Yeah. At the Hager.
I will never liked.
At the Hager.
I know it's part of the show. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. I understand, Kira.
I know she probably agreed to it, but like I.
It comes at an awkward time that he did that a few weeks ago. I'm sure not a lot of people remember it.
Obviously.
But it does come at an awkward time. But yeah, you're right, Kira.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
It also was really weird. Can I say this? That the man that's standing next to Allie during this segment, they like exchanged looks. I don't know if it's this guy has been seen actually a lot of times. He's like a fake security guard.
I don't.
What are you talking about? What is this conspiracy theory? I'm interested.
He was standing next to Allie the whole time. They're looking at each other. He's been on Dynamite before. He's a fake security guard. He made MJF. MJF made him kiss his ring earlier.
Okay, I have an idea of who you're talking about. I still don't know what he did though.
He's also gotten beat up a little bit. They exchanged eye contact. I don't know.
Maybe they're just bad actors. Like,
I don't know, man.
He's like an extra.
It really could. The storyline could go anywhere at this point, especially if QT is exposed to COVID, and it's not like a set in stone storyline anyway. You could go anywhere in this direction. If this guy is going to show up on TV this often,
he's probably not going to be anything.
Maybe he's one of the boys. He's a wrestler in training, and you throw him into a weak little storyline that if he bombs, nobody's going to care about it.
I mean, it's not.
Allie's really going to move on up in the world, going from a wrestler to a security guard.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
It's not much of a stretch when you like think about how like Allie she's married to the Butcher, right? So like she's this relationship with the QT isn't even like real a little bit. So like, and it's
So you're saying she's a hussy? She gets around?
What if just like, I don't know, really, maybe Brandy's right about her not
she's
being
really promiscuous?
Yeah,
she's not faithful?
Promiscuous girl.
Or just like, Fake? I don't know. Like she's
all
just
fake,
like
brother.
trying
Bro,
to.
I was gonna say the same thing.
What?
It's all fake, brother.
Anyways, keeping it pushing. We got.
Just
Can I segue real quick, Andrew? I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, let's go.
Remember when we liked Joey Janela video packages?
Hey,
This was fine. This was fine. This wasn't
No,
bad. This wasn't bad. We're going right into it. We get the continuation of Sunny Kiss versus Joey Janela because they waited 2 weeks to continue the to be continued. But they go to a gas station. Sunny Kiss is then confronted by carjackers. Janela's inside getting a drink, getting snacks, yada yada yada. He comes out, takes a bite of his bean burrito, and then goes to fight. And fights everybody off. So, did they show the full 3-minute thing on Dynamite, or was this a condensed version?
This was a condensed version.
That's
I think.
probably why you didn't like it.
Okay, because I did not see the full thing on Twitter because this was definitely not 3 minutes. But I didn't love it. I was like, because I know how cool Joey Janela video packages can be, and so I can't help but to compare them in my head of being like they're fighting off like random carjacking thugs in a gas station parking lot, and Sunny Kiss is slapping them, and Joey Janela has a bean burrito, and it's funny and all, but it's just like I was just like, man, they could make Joey Janela look so much cooler.
dude, I liked.
He looks cool.
I
still.
liked this because I didn't really see like Joey Janela in his prime with the whole being summoning a genie and all that shit. I really didn't. I
That
wasn't
was
there for that.
amazing.
It was
I wasn't
great.
there for that. And they haven't really capitalized on the Joey Janela video package thing. So this was the best thing that I've seen hyping him up. And this tag team, which seems like a randomly forced thing, but the chemistry was there in this video package. It wasn't overly serious. That's not what I would like to see this team be. It was like they were doing their own thing. They had a little segment where they pulled karate moves on carjackers. Joey filled his shopping cart with Lunchables. I can relate to that. And then he hit one of the carjackers with a bag of Lunchables. It was awesome. I don't even care if I sound like a homer on this, man. I really, really like this segment because, like we were saying last week, there was no follow-up to the to be continued thing. And this was as great as I could expect it to be. I mean, what more do you want from this tag team?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah,
it's a-
but you know what?
it's
You're
a little
selling me.
goofy
You're
segment.
selling me, Phil.
It's an interesting way for Joey to find himself again and become like looking out for Sunny Kiss, and they could go a million different ways with it. Eventually, you easily could turn Joey and just make him such a shitty bad guy. So there's so much that they could do with this story down the line that I like that they're giving him something that I would almost assume more vignettes like this, because the one thing that was like overwhelming almost was the response to this on social media in terms of people just being like, I really like this video. I liked what they did, especially with the extended version. So it's cool to see Joey getting something. But even before the whole genie in a bottle thing with Joey, like he had cool vignettes of him being very serious and returning to CZW and stuff like this. So it is a little bit hard to see it go into a much more maybe comedic or non-serious role because he was like this real badass character. But in this world of AEW, I don't know that he can play that character right away. Like, you're going up against the Moxleys of the world who play that character maybe a little bit better than you. So what else can you do? And this is something else, and it's interesting. It will probably get him more TV time. It's better than just feuding with Kip Sabian over your girlfriend in the cliche wrestling way. So I liked it.
And maybe it's a better way for him to establish his character for casual fans who don't really know Joey Janela as like the goofy kind of guy who doesn't take himself too seriously. He doesn't fall into the cliche of other wrestlers. And then he gets his moment to shine in a serious moment instead of like being thrown into the main event with Jon Moxley in a hardcore match. And people who don't know who Joey Janela is have no context with him. He's just a wrestler fighting a more popular wrestler.
Yeah,
You've swayed me. I'm fine with this.
Maybe I need to watch earlier videos of Joey.
Oh, you definitely should.
Absolutely.
I've never really took him seriously, and I always just thought he was just like a goofy guy. So like, I guess I started watching after this.
No, and that's exactly what I'm saying. For a casual person, even who watches AEW regularly for the past months and months, like they don't really understand the character of Joey Janela, and at the same time, it's like a disservice to him as a wrestler that he has gone this long without being a featured person.
And the tough thing for him is like what's really it's almost like it's unfortunate, but not like he had lightning in a bottle when he came back then. Like he was coming back from one of the craziest, almost death-defying spots in professional wrestling, getting thrown off a building by Zandig. Like Kira, when I say thrown off a building into a back of a truck full of light tubes, that is as serious as I could possibly be. Nearly dying, comes back from injury early. Gets really cool hype videos to hype him up. Like, that's lightning in a bottle in terms of getting that character over. And you can't, like, he's in a whole different place in his life now. Like, he probably doesn't even have that edge in himself to pull that character out because he's just in a different place now. And so we are seeing a different character. And I like that. And we are definitely Joey homers, though, but they're doing a good job with it. And they followed it up with this match between Sonny and Joey against Brody and Colt Cabana, and they did so much with these guys that normally, if we just saw a video for Joey Janela and then he followed it up with a loss, we'd probably be pretty mad. But I think they did a good enough job that I'm not going to complain.
I agree with that. I was that had that in the back of my head, like they gave him the video package when he loses, but I knew he was going to lose. But they had really good chemistry, Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. Sonny Kiss still needs to work on stuff. Like there's one time where he barely got touched by Colt Cabana and he just swooned and fell over.
I did see that when he got elbowed, but he took it like a second too early.
Yeah.
And it just looked fake. You know, you can tell when you see enough wrestling when something looks fake.
His timing is off. That's the thing, and he needs to work on it. But other than that, they had really good chemistry. I loved the double moonsault spot. I was really into the match. It wasn't boring. I was entertained by it. And I was interested to see where it was going to go because I'm interested in this Colt Cabana Dark Order thing.
Yeah, like you said, man, this match could have gone either way because both of these teams have really significant storylines going on. So no matter what way the result had gone, the storyline could have shifted in like 3 or 4 different ways. So it was interesting to see what direction they were going to go and how the match was going to play out. And I thought it played out very interestingly.
Yeah, why did Colt look so confused at first when Brody, he tagged him in at the very beginning and he was like, he looked hesitant almost.
You want me to tell you why?
Why?
Because he's buying into it, I believe. He's like a good guy in the beginning. He like wants to be Colt Cabana as he's been for like 15 years. But I believe at the same time, the fact that the storyline as it goes is he was 5-0, he was undefeated in AEW, and now he's 5-5, lost as many matches as he won, and now they're like building this scenario where he might join. Like, they finally have a star that will join the Dark Order as opposed to being this group where, we're going to try to recruit all these losers, but the losers turn us down. Yeah. So after a while, you don't really buy the group if
that's true.
People like Colt Cabana and Brandon Cutler are going to turn them down.
I feel like at this point, it's not like, he's joining. I feel like he's joined.
Yeah, you feel like he's joined at this point.
He's won a match with the leader of the whole Dark Order and like walking out.
And
it was
the
very
big test
well done
is the fact, like, and they're setting it up really well with the big test being them going up against SCU later on. That's the team. Like he like I feel like Cole or someone has planned this whole thing out from the very beginning, like because he was partnering with SCU, and then they had a match against the Dark Order probably like 3 to 6 months ago, and now at this point Colt is now teaming with the Dark Order against SCU. At that point, I feel like we'll really have the answer if Colt is going to be a bad guy with the Dark Order or if he's going to feud with the Dark Order and still be aligned with SCU and stuff like that. I really hope that he does, align with the Dark Order because it's just a much more compelling story to me. I don't see him versus Brody being that interesting, or him against the Dark Order isn't
not
the
going to
fight.
be interesting, and that's exactly what's going to happen though, because I'm just doing the math. Because you have you have Brody Lee, you have Stu Grayson, you have Player Uno or whatever, Evil Uno, you have 10, and so that's 4 people. And so all you have to do is move Colt Cabana into SCU, and then you have another 4 people.
Yeah. So I mean, you're probably right, but they could easily put someone else in there, or if you get Colt in the Dark Order, you shift another tag team with SCU, and it's 5-on-5. So it's not an impossible way to make this work, or to just incorporate someone else with them. But I do think you're probably right in the fact that it will end up being Colt against Brody Lee or something similar to that scenario, just because, like, I do think him joining is cool, and it's like the opposite of what always happens in wrestling, AJ. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we've seen this story a million times where you're always like, oh, is person A gonna join this group? Is he gonna join? And you're like, oh, maybe, and then no, of course not. And then at the very end, it would just be so much more interesting. And the Dark Order is finally getting storylines where they're interesting and not just totally boring. So I hope that we get something more with this, because I
wholeheartedly agree. I definitely agree with you, and I want that. But
weren't you almost kind of expecting it this week if they were going to do it? Because that's what my feeling. I was like, maybe Sonny and Joey will get a win here by Colt or Brody being like losing, and then they attack Colt afterwards. They're like, we didn't really want you. You're obviously just a loser. Like, I thought that this would have been the point to do it.
I really wasn't. I really was thinking Colt and Brody are going to win, and through nefarious means, and Colt's not going to realize. I like exactly what happened.
But Brody even put himself on the line for Colt, dude. Like, he pushed Colt out of the way. He took the tope suicida from Joey and just ate it, because like and that was cool. Like, it's such an interesting thing. He fed the win to Colt. Like, he's not really doing anything even that evil. He's not being that bad of a guy. He's just kind of literally leading Colt to a much better scenario, and all he has to do is beat up his friends.
But to answer your question, no, I was under the assumption that they would win tonight, and that's what happened. And I figured that they're going to keep this, drawing it out a little longer. I do hope you're right, though, and I don't like taking Phil's gimmick of being the pessimistic one. So I hope you're right. I want it to be this thing we've never seen before, where Colt really does join the Dark Order, but I don't know, man. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, he when Brody said, we're gonna go against SCU, Colt looked at him like, SCU, like he was second guessing it, or maybe he was just like worried that
they'd lose?
Yeah, or I don't know, like that he would throw the whole thing on accident, or maybe he does like switch sides. I was thinking that he would switch sides too, and I also would like to see him going into the Dark Order, but I'm not sure if he's going to go through with it.
Yeah, I agree with what AJ said. If he did join the Dark Order, maybe it seems like too many cooks. But at the same time, if they do a Colt Cabana versus Brody Lee feud, even though they've done it well so far, in the end, I'm not going to care about it.
Yeah.
Like, the build-up here is really good, really great. I'm entertained by it, but if that's where it's going to lead, in the end, I'm going to be disappointed by the result, no matter how they really do it. Maybe they surprise me. They surprised me a lot recently. Maybe it'll be done good, but I don't think it will be.
Yo, and then why does Lance Archer just randomly start beating
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I have thoughts about this. Today, when I was watching Dynamite, I was really entertained by it, but I can't help but think of one person who really entertains me no matter how shitty the Dynamite episode is, and that's Lance Archer and Jake
love
Roberts.
Lance Archer.
And I was like, wow, these guys are going into the pay-per-view, well, the pay-per-view, and they really don't have a spot on it at all. And then I was like, what a wasted talent. And then Lance Archer comes in, he beats up a few guys, like he does all the time, and it's announced later that he's fighting Joey at the pay-per-view, which is a glorified squash match as far as I'm concerned. I wish they had something better for Lance.
I do too. I love him.
Because of all the big monster squash guys they've got in AEW, with maybe the exception of Brian Cage, he's the guy I want to see most.
No, I disagree. Not even the exception of Brian Cage. Lance Archer takes it for me.
I agree. I agree too. I only would debate with you, AJ, because they've given the proper hype to Cage in the past month and a half, and it's been good. It hasn't been forced. It has, it's very natural feeling. He beats up his jobbers really, really, really well, and Unique dominates them. But Archer is a guy who's kind of faded into the background, where he had so much momentum a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to me, man, because I still feel very strongly about him and his character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like an interesting little filler feud is almost what it feels like. Like I feel like we'll get a couple weeks of this, but I do like this slow story of it seems like we're going to get Sonny Kiss being attacked a lot and then Joey making the save or attempting to make the save. This time he's not able to totally make the save. And who knows where this goes exactly, but it's cool that Archer is getting something. And Sonny and Joey, I hope they're not just used as total feeders for Archer over the next couple weeks and don't really get anything out of this themselves. I hope they're somehow able to swing this into something for them. But who knows what? It's one of those where you got to wait and see. Especially with the Fyter Fest shows over the next few weeks. Will they do nothing with them? Maybe they'll make Dark more important over the next couple weeks by featuring all of these people who won't actually have matches on Fyter Fest. I would like to see that, but it'll probably just be the same old Dark shows. So after that match and that beatdown, we get a replay of Shawn Spears using a loaded glove to beat Pineapple Pete. AJ is probably the only one who has much to say about his boy Shawn Spears.
Yo, what the fuck was this, man?
Not talking about Shawn Spears. I like loaded item gimmicks. Like I loved it when Chris Hero had the loaded elbow pad. I thought that was sick. So I haven't seen Dark in a while, so I don't know if they're doing it well or what. But if they're doing a cool loaded gimmick for Shawn Spears, that's neat. But other than that, I don't really care.
So the glove is loaded, or is that just a term?
Loaded means it has like steel or something,
like weights in it or something like weighted.
Yeah, if you saw tonight when they showed the highlight package, the 30-second highlight package, he had the little steel plate in his glove.
How was that allowed? Like
it's not.
He's a sneaky snake.
Oh, so the refs don't know.
This is. I don't really have much of an opinion on this because it was a 10-second segment basically, but I watched an episode of Dark recently and they said that the black glove was a historic element of wrestling in the past.
It's a dramatic.
And
I don't know about all that. I just like the loaded gimmick.
I don't know what they're doing with
you
this.
Just want to like Shawn Spears so bad no matter what that you'll put over any little shitty thing he does. Like they I don't even
Dude, if anybody had a loaded elbow pad or a loaded knee pad, I would be all over that shit. Because when Chris Hero did it, it was fucking boss.
Shawn Spears just fucking sucks, dude.
It is so much lamer than finding the perfect tag partner gimmick. That's way more.
How many shitty storylines do we have to go through before we can just say this guy sucks?
I'm not defending Shawn Spears. It actually sucks.
Go back to the tag team thing where
go back to NXT and get the fuck off my Wednesday nights.
He's not on your Wednesday nights.
If he went back to NXT, it'd still be
promos on Wednesday night.
It's still too much, AJ. Keep him off my Wednesday nights. Anyways, two guys we got from the WWE but are on our Wednesday nights now, FTR. They beat SCU in about a 12.5-minute match. This was good. It was cool to see SCU back again in a tag team match, but I guess we should explain why the Natural Nightmares, or is that what they're called? The Natural Nightmares weren't in this tag team match. QT Marshall met a guy who had coronavirus, so he couldn't come to the show tonight. It's good that they're being safe. I want to joke about it, but it is good that they're being safe. But yeah, we got a different match instead. And as I said on Twitter, I was much more hyped for this match than that match anyway. So what'd you guys think?
Yeah, great match. No, I mean, we knew who was going to win, but I wasn't really that upset about it because the match quality itself was really good. SCU and FTR, I couldn't ask for like a better matchup except for the Young Bucks, really. So I was super into it. Thought they did really well. It was a good long. It wasn't long, but it was like 12 minutes, and they got all their shit in. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it, even though it was obvious who would win. At the post-match stuff, if I can get into that, it got a little wacky because the Lucha Bros just randomly appeared in the ring, which is it's great to see Penta back in Phoenix and everything, but the Butcher and the Blade were in their truck. At first I was like, this is weird, but then I kind of liked it because I was like, all this time I was under the impression, oh, they're just burying the Butcher and the Blade. They're having them being the joke of every single segment here. And instead of just burying them completely and saying, oh, you're the joke, you're just the filler that we need to keep these two clashing, they're actually giving them a match and putting them in the angle. And I was pretty into that. I don't know how the Lucha Brothers fit into that at all, but I like the fact that Butcher and the Blade are players in this situation.
You want to know why they fit into it? Because they're another tag team that can fill out the 4 versus 4 segment. That's all it is, the 8-man tag.
But they're a much like they have other tag teams they could have used, so they have this is the best tag team you could possibly put in this group. What do you mean? There's other teams in AEW that they could have.
Alex Reynolds and John Silver.
I don't know, man. I guess you're right. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any heel tag teams that you could immediately throw with the Butcher and the Blade, but I'm sure there are other teams and just the Lucha Brothers. But I don't know. They easily could have just done a triple threat tag team match if they were that concerned about not having talent for this.
I agree.
Lucha Brothers is a way to showcase that they have such a deep tag team division. Like,
I think that's why the FTR thing is so interesting to me because we haven't really established if they're heel or face yet. They have the long going
heel or face.
If they're good guys or bad guys. We don't really know because every week we kind of tease that they're going to be good guys and they're going to be bad guys. Like, yes, they're teaming with the Butcher and the Blade, but at the same time, they're also feuding with the Young Bucks. They called them out this week. They called out a lot of tag teams. They called out Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus this week.
Yeah, I kind of like them.
Yes, I also agreed that it was a very good post-match promo, even before all the shenanigans happened. Just FTR in the ring, promoing, putting themselves over. It was a very good segment there.
Yeah, he was.
And again, we for weeks we've been building up. Do they respect the Young Bucks? Do they hate the Young Bucks? Do they want to kill the Young Bucks? We don't really know. And maybe it would be a good thing if they were a heel tag team because I mean, aside from a few, Proud and Powerful. There's not a really lot now that you take the Superbad squad away. There's not really a lot of heel tag teams. That's a storyline that can go either way, and either way it would be entertaining.
We do need a heel tag team, but I don't think you're going to get that payoff. I really don't think they're going to be a heel or face. I think you're getting tweener, no gimmick needed badasses here, and that's what FTR is going to be.
I agree with you, AJ, but at the same time, with this 8-man tag team thing, it could be.
I understand.
It could be the perfect platform to establish a top-of-the-card, dominant heel tag team.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that I think that both teams are too cocky in the sense of like they feel like they can do it without saying one team is a bad guy and one team is a good guy. Like I feel like the Young Bucks and FTR are like we don't have to play the face heel role. We don't got to play that game. We could do wrestling how we want to do it, and neither one of us. We could just say it's for who wants to be the better team, and it's about respect, and it's about this. And maybe after they have a match, then if FTR loses, I could see them getting into a more established heel role. But up until they officially have a match against each other, I don't see either team really turning on the other one in a way that makes them look like the bad guys, unless it is the Bucks, because they would want to.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that like will draw people in. Like, are they good or bad? And then like this feud that like they're there for each other, but then they also hate each other. Like, it's weird that the Young Bucks came in to protect them, but then like they don't even really like each other that much.
Yeah, they're always talking shit to each other.
I thought it was funny how the Butcher and the Blade stole the truck, though.
That was funny.
It's, like,
yo,
so random,
yo,
but,
the
like,
Blade was he had one line tonight, and I thought it was great because he was like, "Hey, we're the Butcher and the Blade. You remember us?" And it was funny because they've been an afterthought for like 2 months. And it was
But the thing about it is, and this is why I guess I'm saying I was so adamant about them tossing the Lucha Brothers in, isn't just because it's the only team. Like, they add so much more to this 8-man tag team match. Like,
Agreed.
with the Butcher and the Blade only, you're like, I don't know if I want to see them go up against these guys. But then you add in the Lucha Brothers, and you're like, oh, this is actually going to be like a really great match, at least.
Definitely.
And so this it's going to be fun, and they built it up really quick and threw it together really quick, but it's a good match to have tossed together so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that.
Yep, and then Oh, go ahead, Kira.
I was just going to say, yeah, first, I didn't even think about like why the Lucha Brothers were there. How are they connected? I was just like, oh, they're back. Like that's what it was for.
That was what I thought too. Was when I saw Pentagon, because Phoenix has been there a little bit on and off because he'd gotten injured. But when I saw the two of them together, man, that is a tag team that before the whole COVID thing, I loved seeing them every single week.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it just kind of adds depth to that division. It's like the total opposite of the women's division where they don't have many teams to work with. In the tag team division, there are so many teams to work with that teams that they are trying to elevate, like Private Party, really can't get brought up because they just have such a crowded division. Like I couldn't imagine Private Party against any of the top 4 or 5 teams in AEW right now because there's just such a drastic drop-off. So
I would like to see Private Party against Proud and Powerful, and they get their shit stomped in.
Who gets their shit stomped in?
Private Party. They're definitely lower on the card. I want to see their shit stomped in. I don't know why.
They've kind of proven themselves a little bit more, though.
Yeah.
At least Mark, right, from the battle.
Markin.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss with those guys, and that's what I mean. Because even like as a talent, like they have so much more to grow. So up against these teams that are just so established and so good, they will elevate by being paired up against such good teams. But right now, it's just such a different class. So, and we continue that with the video package between the Best Friends and Kenny and Hangman, 2 other tag teams in AEW that are in a different class but aren't even in the traditional top 5 of tag teams, I guess you would say. But this was a great promo, a great way to build up that match and sort of make the Best Friends seem a little bit more serious, like they really want to become champions. So I liked this.
I love this. I talked about it like a few weeks back, but I was saying like if you take a comedy routine and then you add seriousness to it, it makes it all the more serious. And I really like the Best Friends just saying, here, this is our chance. We're not gonna fuck around. We're not joking around. We're gonna try and win the titles because this is our chance to do that. And I love the dichotomy between them and Hangman and Page. When you put it in the context of this video package, this becomes a really great matchup because the Best Friends, who are such a cohesive unit, arguably the most cohesive aside from the Young Bucks or the Lucha Brothers, who are actually blood relatives, they are completely on the same page versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, who are on completely opposite side of the spectrum. They are not on the same page. They don't even really like each other. They're just there by circumstance, and they're just doing it because, like they said, they're the best at what they're doing. But it makes it such a great matchup when you put it all into this perspective. And when you just shift the lens just a little bit, you get a whole story that really you don't have to really drive home really hard. You can say it in a few words and it makes sense. And I am so goddamn... I think out of all the Fyter Fest, this is the match I'm most excited for.
They did this one really, really well. It feels like when they want to do the promo segments really well, they do it really well. The hype videos, they do them well when they want to.
Yeah, but I also felt kind of sad when Hangman Page said, like, we're definitely not best friends. I was like, Oh, like a part of me, like I guess hoped that they were like friends, you know. Like I thought that they all at one point maybe had like this connection, like the all the elite or whatever, like Nick and Matt and Kenny and Hangman Page. But then he said that, and I was like, oh, like are they not friends at all? Like, I mean,
I would say no, and I think that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah,
I guess.
and like that's the story that I like that they keep building, and it was something I was gonna mention. Like, I'm so happy we have this story back, the Hangman and Kenny thing, where it's this interesting dichotomy of something that you're still waiting for it to officially boil over, and they haven't gone all in on being like best friends. They still haven't come up with a tag team name. They're just two of the best wrestlers in wrestling being a tag team, and they essentially said that they're like we're not anything but the best wrestlers. Like, we're not great friends, we're just the best, and they kind of are, and it's done a lot to elevate Hangman by portraying him as someone who's essentially on the same level as Kenny, who was just this superstar for so long. Like, I'm excited, and the more they've continued to build it, like we've had almost a half a year of this, where we'll eventually get Kenny Omega and Hangman fighting each other. You know, like there will be a huge video package of that, where at some point we'll be reminded of moments like this, of moments of them taking the shot, and then eventually it's all gonna go wrong. Like, at some point one of them is gonna turn on the other one, and that story is just gonna continue. So it's just cool that they're laying the groundwork here. And who knows? I don't expect the best friends to win, but they've done a lot more to make it believable. I wouldn't be so upset if they did now. If they did win, I would be kind of okay with it. They've done a little bit to elevate this team over the last couple months, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be very sad, though, to see Kenny and Hangman go against each other, but...
You're going to be sad, Kira.
Yeah, you are going to be sad.
I
It's
know
gonna
I'm
happen.
going to be. I know it's going to have to happen.
I just don't think it's going to happen at this point.
No.
I'm surprised Matt and him haven't...
It's
I mean,
gonna
I know
be-
they've had, like, already kind of, like, a fight, but I'm surprised they haven't, like,
Man.
actually, like, had a wrestling match.
It's going to be difficult whenever the storyline reaches the climax, and whatever happens, and somebody beats them for the title. I don't know who the right team, thinking right now who that's going to be. But I don't think this is the time that it's going to happen. So that's why I feel like there's a definite favorite to this match, no matter
I'm
how
glad they've
well.
added the hint of potential, though, because when this match was first made, we were very much in that same. I was in the same boat as you, and I think maybe you might be swayed a little bit more, like. And it's not even to say I think it's going to happen, but if it did happen, it's justifiable now because they've done a lot more with just them as characters. Like, they've fleshed them out more. They're not just funny guys. They're not just silly guys. Like, there's a little bit more to them. There's a little bit more respect to the fact that they want to be champions, not just want to be funny. So they did a lot here.
I, honest to God, would not be surprised if this was the point. And not the point where he turns, but the point where they lose the belts.
I feel like they have to turn them when they lose the belts, because there's no point in doing it. But I don't know but the reason I think it could be the time is because you might want to start this to lead up to All Out. It's either going to lead up to All Out or it might start at All Out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you want to build it to another pay-per-view. The next pay-per-view is All Out. After that, they're probably waiting until maybe December or even next year to really get that match on pay-per-view. So you never know. Now might be the time to pull the trigger, just based upon timing and how many times they want to do this match or how long they want to run this feud. The bright side of this feud in comparison to Cody versus Max is this one's going to hit you the same way when one of them turns on each other, but they're going to have such a better match. Like,
and don't forget, Trent is Tony Khan's boy.
The boy.
Don't forget about it.
That is true, Phil. Oh man, I'm a little bit more swayed just off of AJ saying that, because he believes in him. So they could easily be champions, but we'll have to wait and see. This next video package featured someone I think could very well become a champion in the next couple weeks, Brian Cage. This was a video package featuring Cage and Moxley. Moxley says that under different circumstances he would like Brian. Then we get a bunch of interviewees talking about the parking lot brawl. Taz says that the amount of harm done to him, he'll be damaged goods by Fyter Fest. So a good little setup here. This just builds to Taz joining commentary. But what do you think of the video? Have they done enough for this match between these two?
They're hot-shotting him. That's the main thing. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the AEW hotshot joke is sometimes justified because they just took a guy who has some name value and strapped a rocket to him. So I think, yeah, they've done as much as you possibly can do, especially with Jon Moxley not being able to be on TV this week, that this is probably as good as it's going to get. And I don't think they did a bad job. I think Brian Cage has legitimacy. I think it's going to be an interesting match. I think I don't think Jon Moxley's going to lose, but if he did lose, I wouldn't be mad because if you're going to hotshot people, you might as well pull the trigger.
The pre-match promo isn't really what I want to talk about. It's the post-match promo that I want to talk about.
Yeah, the fact that Taz was so bad guy.
Yeah, we can get to that after Brian Cage squashed Joey Cruz, who didn't get a grab.
John Cruz.
Yeah, okay. Well, that just proves the fact that you don't give the guy a graphic, you don't give him nothing, you give him nothing.
Yeah, that sucks.
At least the guys that Cage has squashed in the past, you give him a little bit of a. You usually say the guy's name before he's halfway to being squashed. The post match segment, because obviously Cage wins in less than 2.5 minutes. That was really good. I really appreciated the Taz promo where he kind of like borders the line of reality and wrestling when he says, "You're sitting home with a bullshit excuse because you don't want to face my boy." And it's not like he can come out and say, "Hey, you were exposed to COVID-19 and you're a pussy for staying home." I thought it was
what he basically said without saying it, though, right?
I thought it was really well done because
it was.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the scenario sitting at home, but when you're watching a character on television paint a story about other characters on television, and you know the truth, you know that he's staying home for a totally legitimate reason, it makes me laugh. It made me laugh out loud because he's playing the bad guy, and you know it's irrational for him to think that way. But as a bad guy, man, he's avoiding his boy.
Yeah, it was a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Taz killed it, and Taz has been doing such a good job as a manager. We have a lot of. It's hard for me to pick between Jake Roberts or Taz, but there's a couple great managers in AEW, and they're doing damn good. Arn Anderson and Tully don't really do it for me, but Taz and Jake Roberts, those are the boys.
Agreed.
And Taz kills it every time. He's so good on the mic. I'm glad they're utilizing him more than commentary, and he's great on commentary. But it's really great to see him get to play a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mox just might be at a point where he's better off just resetting what he's done. Like his run as champion hasn't been very good due to COVID, and just keeps getting screwed by COVID really because he misses so many different weeks, and this is just another one leading up to an important show. So you don't hold it against him, but it's just a point where, you know, this reign isn't going to get any better unless he's champion for like another 6 months. He would have to beat everyone. We'd have to wait until there's really fans and stuff again. So why not just transition to someone new and then give Mox an opportunity again down the line?
I feel like this was a rare opportunity. I'm gonna sound crazy when I say this. I feel like COVID actually helped this feud a little bit, because it sets up an absurd scenario where a heel worker is being absurd, and everybody at home knows that they're being a jackass about it. If Moxley had come out and brawled with Cage to end the show, would we really have been entertained by that?
I wouldn't.
No.
Because that's what it feels like, the climax of a feud before the payoff match. That's where it usually seems to go, is where somebody's going to brawl with the other person, and 5 different wrestlers are going to come out and pull it apart. But here we had a unique scenario where Taz is going to come out and pretend like there isn't a global pandemic going on, and he's going to call out the other guy.
Definitely.
It felt good.
It did help. You're right.
Sets him up as like a bad guy. Like I immediately thought
like
of those people that are like, COVID's not real. Like let's go outside. I'm not wearing a mask. And I'm like, oh my god.
Taz was embracing the boomer culture for sure.
Yeah. So it was definitely a good promo there, and then they cut to the backstage where we have Colt Cabana talking to Brody. They're talking about how it felt good to win. Brody says that they're going to have another opportunity to win when they face SCU. And we talked about this a little bit, so I don't think we need to talk about it a whole lot more. But it was cool to see them continuing to build up to this, and that match will be very interesting, even with a short build. So that's cool.
Definitely.
Then they talked about the whole Fyter Fest card. I'm not going to run through the 2 nights. We'll actually probably do a show, either me and AJ or all 4 of us or whoever's available, running down the card, giving our predictions and all of that. So is there any specific ones you guys want to talk about? Or
Let me take a look real quick. The only one I want to talk about is the one that we're about to talk about. So not really.
2 interesting ones, I guess, that we really haven't mentioned throughout the show because we have mentioned a majority of the matches. But we have Archer taking on Janela. We did talk about the fact that they brawled earlier in the show, but we're going to get an official match between these 2. That should be interesting. Hopefully it's not super short. And then we also will have Nyla Rose in action with a big surprise. So I'm not totally sure what that will be.
That's right, yeah.
Who knows? Maybe anything that could potentially add a new face to the women's division, I'm all for. So hopefully that's what it is. But yeah, not a whole lot in terms of new matches added, which you wouldn't expect. So we'll go over that card in the next couple of days. After that, we just get another note from Britt Baker talking about Big Swole, saying that she was in the dumpster for 10 hours, but Swole is the biggest piece of trash on the roster. Swole then comes out, dumps garbage on Britt, so they're just continuing this feud. But again, it's good to see them continuing to give time to this and not doing it all in 15 minutes. They're breaking it up into like 5-minute segments throughout the show, so you don't forget about Britt, but you also don't get totally overwhelmed with all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a fun segment, and it's good that they're continuing the Big Swole thing. It kind of stuck with me what Kira said earlier. I would actually be really interested in a Rebel squash match now, just to give her something to do, because you're doing all this with Big Swole and Britt Baker. You might as well do something with it. But yeah, this was fine for what it was. It is exactly what you'd expect, and Britt Baker is staying prominent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, we get Matt Hardy taking on Santana. Obviously, a change in the match card due to the Sammy Guevara situation. So this match just really didn't do a whole lot of anything for me because I didn't feel like there was a whole much of a story to it. It was just a placeholder match out of nowhere, randomly in the main event match position. So it didn't do a whole lot for me. It was probably a really regular match, decent match. Sets up Matt Hardy and Private Party taking on Santana, Ortiz, and someone, right? Isn't... Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's Private Party, right?
And Matt Hardy's the manager
with Matt Hardy.
Yeah. So that's the way to set up that match and get that going. So should be interesting. That's why Phil wants them to get their faces stomped in.
I can't believe that.
I thought it was weird that Chris. Who even is he? Damascus now in this match. He was Damascus. I thought it was weird he was going against him himself. Like, does that usually happen, 2 against 1? I mean, I know they weren't, like, in the ring at the same time, but they kind of were sometimes, but that's what they do. But, like...
Yeah, they were cheating.
Yeah, they're bad boys.
But the fact that, like, it wasn't just, like, one of them against him, it was both of them against one. Is that...
No, it was definitely 1-on-1, but with the added scenario where one guy had a tag team partner to jump in whenever he wants to. Yeah, man, that happens all the time.
I mean, technically...
Welcome to wrestling, baby!
Technically, Damascus is, like, also
Matt Hardy. Yeah, that was his tag partner.
3 other people.
Yes, yes. Matt Hardy had Broken Matt Hardy, Mattitude V1, and all the other Matt Hardys to tag in.
Bunny.
Yeah, but a simple way to build up to a match that really isn't super important, but when you're running a 2-week event, that's what's going to happen, I guess, because there's not, like, I feel like they easily could have condensed Fyter Fest into one night and it would have been okay. It seems like we have a lot of filler matches. Like, this match doesn't seem super important. It's just kind of tossed together on the card. So
this was the one that was least interesting to me on the card.
It's probably going to be the buy-in. I guess we don't have a buy-in since it's a 2-week event. Yeah, I mean.
But the one match that I am most interested in, Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy, they close out the show building to this one. We had a nice little Chris Jericho promo, essentially telling Orange Cassidy not to do his same old shtick to him because then they'll have a problem.
He was an embarrassment to the business.
He was going to beat his
cornet.
He was going to beat his ass.
A lazy slacker.
And Orange just follows up by doing exactly what Jericho told him not to. He does his feints kicks. And then Jericho takes off his glasses, breaks them. This prompts Orange Cassidy to attack him. They brawl around. Jericho hits him in the head with one of the cameras, makes Orange Cassidy start bleeding. At one point, they get up into the crowd area where there's like 20 fans.
I know.
And then Orange does like some crazy Superman punch to Jericho, knocking him through a table. So they did a really good job. Like I thought this whole segment was great. I've always been a huge Orange Cassidy fan, but now that we have just dozens of people cheering for him, even makes everything better. And so it was good. I really appreciated what they did here, and it was a good way to close out the show and lead us into the next show.
Do you know why this is a good match? It's because it is not out of the realm of possibility for Chris Jericho to say, I want to put Orange Cassidy over.
Yep.
That's why it's interesting. Because that is a total realistic thing that he goes, well, this guy's over as fuck, and I love his character, and so I want to put him over. Like, that is a Chris Jericho move through and through. He put Fandango over, I think. Okay, so it's not
that was not by choice, but you're
know
right.
what I'm saying. Like, he's put over people who are not over, who he had no right putting over.
Yeah, he knows Orange is a star, so why not make him more of a star? And segments like this are what do shit like that. Like, it's not just the match. This segment did a lot.
I wish if that's the direction they were going, that he would remind people that he was AW champion for however many days. I'm the first champion, like blah, 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 blah. Like, if you beat me, it's a big fucking deal. Like, not like if you beat me, you beat 45-year-old Chris Jericho.
Well, I'm sorry, Jericho, and expects the fans to remember that he was the last champion and the first champion.
Out of the true champions.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I get what you're saying. There is a little bit more that they could do, but I think they're doing a good job. This is a very important match for Orange Cassidy. Beating Jericho has always been deemed a relatively important thing. So if he does come out on top, it's going to be good. It's interesting. Like, obviously, they have to do this now because next week they're doing one show and then the following week. But they're on the second week. Like, this isn't coming next week. So I wonder if they're going to do any more to build next week, or if we're just this is it. I would be fine with that because this was a good way to lead into it, but we'd then have to keep it fresh in our mind for a couple weeks.
Well, they can just give you a video package on Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I haven't looked at the total lineup between the 2 days, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a good match, a good build. They've done a really great job with it, so I don't know. I don't know what else they could have done to close out the show and make me more excited for Fyter Fest. I guess that's what it is. Like, I'm super excited for this match, probably most excited for this one, but I have to wait 2 weeks for this one, so that's where I'm like, oh, shit. But it's a good show, and they did a good job. This was one of the better Dynamites that we've had in a long time.
Definitely. This was a great show. And I would say the tag team match is the number one for me, but Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho, very close second, because like you said, it's just an interesting match. It's not, and like I was saying, it's not out of the realm of possibility Chris Jericho takes a loss. There's a lot of things that can happen here. Even if Orange Cassidy just goes the distance, that's a huge deal. There's a lot you can do, even if it's a draw. So I don't know. I'm really excited for this one, man.
Yeah, me too, because Orange Cassidy has always just started off as, like Chris Jericho said, lazy or like a slacker. Just does like a little the little kick thing. But then all of a sudden last week he just like bolted right out and like beat him up, and then today again he beat him up and was like standing tall while like Chris Jericho was like on the ground, like so like, which was really cool how they did that, because it really makes you like believe that this fight with Jericho will now be like something you should watch, because at first you might not have, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good build. That's exactly what you need. So
Yeah.
great build to kind of the whole show, the whole Fighter Fest 2
Definitely.
weeks that they've got set up. Even some of the matches that are just filler matches, like they're still interesting. It's gonna be a good 2 weeks. Like I'm excited to come back over the next 2 Wednesdays and talk about wrestling on those weeks, because this was a good way to lead up to it. Like the next few weeks will be really exciting, be good matches, and I don't know. Hopefully we're not running into more issues where people have to be pulled off the show for coming into contact with someone with COVID. So they should take extra precaution right now, especially because you just, like, I don't know the whole numbers thing in Florida, but I know that Florida's got one of the places where things are getting a little bit crazy.
Tell me, AJ.
I know that in the WWE they have potentially double-digit numbers of people infected with COVID, so you don't want to see the same situation with AEW, and that's extremely concerning when you have the announcer for WWE is married, or an announcer for WWE is married to the AEW champion. There's if like, who knows how that situation is going to play out? Is he now going to have to quarantine from his wife for the next 2 weeks, because she tweeted that she has COVID, like. So I'm not sure how that works for Mox. Mox very well could have COVID. That would completely destroy the championship match. So it's just, who knows how the next few weeks will play out. Like I meant to say it when we started out the show. Like, we started out joking about COVID. The last time we did that, Phil's show got canceled the next day. So
That's true.
who knows what will happen. And if I'm sure they will probably be trying to get Mox tested ASAP. And then would probably have to do something to change really quick. Like they're fortunate that they would technically have next week to do something else, but I don't even know what you could possibly do then. So hopefully not. Hopefully everything's good there. But yeah, definitely seeing Renee Young tweeting about having COVID, it was like, oh no. So
Yeah.
that pretty much wraps up this week's show. I don't think you guys watched Dark this week, did you? So we don't
No.
got the musty moments.
No.
No, but we did watch A Shot of Brandy. Did you know she has a YouTube channel?
What was the musty moment on A Shot of Brandy?
Oh, AJ, you had to ask.
I actually liked how Orange Cassidy was on the show. She also had Moxie on the show, but I like and Darby Allin. He was kind of boring, but it's okay. Who am I talking about again?
The musty moment.
Orange Cassidy was the best because he doesn't talk. Like we saw today, he went to grab the mic and you're like, oh my god, he's never talked on the show. So if you want to see him talk and like be a person, like he's got a little personality on that. He showed a little bit.
That is true. He has no personality on Dynamite, but when he was exposed to A Shot of Brandy, he was a person.
Yeah, it was cool. Just
Yeah.
a little
So
side,
check out A Shot of Brandy. But that does wrap up the All Elite podcast for us this week. Phil and Kira, go ahead and plug your social media.
You already know my social media. It's here on the screen.
You've been listening for the last 98 shows. If you're not following
Yes,
Phil
but-
now, I can't blame you.
I don't give a fuck.
Is my name on the screen?
Yeah, your name's right above your head. Right up there.
Well, that's my name. Don't wear it out.
AJ.
You can follow
can
me
they
on
find
Twitter
you?
at Big Match AJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJ the Fitzy.
And as always, you can find the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/All Elite Pod. We're on Instagram at All Elite Everything. And we are on YouTube at youtube.com/All Elite Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, brother. You can follow me on Twitter at All Elite Andy. Until next time, thank you guys